Hello, it's Friday, October the 7th, 2016. I'm Simon Thompson. Jeff is away this week, so I'm in the hot seat. We're going to be talking about the week's big releases on the show. We're going to be talking about Mulan, the live-action version from Disney. Harry Potter is back in cinemas. Gears of War is going to be a movie. And movies get titles, which is handy if you're a film, because then people know what to say when they're buying a ticket. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
Welcome back. It's another show. As I say, it's October the 7th, 2016 in, yes, correct Earth time. I don't know why I just did that. Josh, why did I do that?
You don't even have a watch on.
I don't even have a watch on, and I have unhumanly, actually alien-like thin wrists.
What did you see when you looked into that
just
abyss there?
A little bit of hair, which I'm, to be honest with you, not used to seeing when I look in a mirror. Jeff is away this week. He is, I believe, taking part in a very rich person's retreat where you hunt humans in a bayou. Either that or I've got what he's doing confused with the plot of Hard Target.
No, you've got it right. It's just not in the bayou.
Okay.
It's in the greater Boston area.
Okay, the Great Boston Shootout.
Yeah. I think they're looking for clowns. They're going after.
I heard about that.
Stray clowns.
Everybody's losing their shit about clowns
Why
at the
does
moment.
everybody hate clowns so much?
I don't know. What have they ever done?
Honestly, what has a clown ever done to you other than being
Scare the
it
crap out
and
of
then
most
John
people.
Wayne Gacy?
Yes.
There's really not that much precedent there.
You dress up as a clown, you kill a load of people, and suddenly clowns get the bad rap. Josh Dickey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure
to have
be
you here. And obviously from the Mashable fold, where Jeff, his work,
Right.
I say work.
We have taken him in fully now. He is a member of our tribe now.
I was going to say under your bosom, but into.
Well, yeah,
into
that's not.
the bosom.
It's a different. Depends on which bosom you're talking about.
That's true. Where can we find you on Twitter?
Hey, my Twitter handle is JLDLite. That's JLDLITE. Couple layers of meaning there. D-Light,
Yes.
but JLD Light.
Or Gilles de L'été.
Gilles
Which is a bit French. We have a lot to get through today. I already read you the list of what I'd like to talk about, and there is...
Ain't no way we're getting through all that stuff.
That's
Ain't
a whole,
no way.
a whole lot of movies. Let's talk about the current releases this week. We have not seen it, but Girl on a Train, Jeff went to see for Mashable. His review is now live on the site. What did Jeff think about the film? I did not think he would be a fan. Was he a fan?
Boy, he sure did not like that movie very much.
Yeah.
His trouble with it, which I think is... I mean, first of all, let's just walk it back for a second to all the comparisons to Gone Girl, which everybody's like, it's not Gone Girl, don't compare it to Gone Girl, it's not like Gone Girl.
It's weird and lazy comparison.
It is, but it is just the thing. It's like the demographic. It hits that weirdness sweet spot where it's like, here's this strange movie about this girl who, she's a little off kilter and she might be the villain, but she might not be the villain, and you don't really know. And the narrator is taking you around in all kinds of crazy directions. I think the problem with it as a movie, according to Jeff, again, I did not see this film, and I don't intend to, is that the mystery just was kind of dopey, and you could kind of see it coming, and the twist really wasn't much of a twist, and everything else just seems very silly when you sort of can look down the road a little bit and be like, oh, okay, we're coming up on that.
It smacks to me. I mean, I read the original book because the book that it's based on is based in London. I read it when it came out. It was kind of came out of nowhere as a book that just came onto the scene. Didn't get a lot of publicity. Everybody, certainly when I was living in London on the tube, was reading this book. It just became a phenomenon, and then instantly it was announced it was going to become a movie. It does not seem to really fit the book particularly well, and obviously I understand it's sometimes easier to set these things in a different location. But it appears that somewhere along the way, the really good element of the thriller of the book has kind of been lost. Is it that, or is it the casting that's more of an issue?
I don't think the cast is a bad thing. I mean, I think Emily Blunt is very versatile and pretty well liked. I mean, she's not a movie ruiner like Amy Adams. But sorry, that's a very personal and very unpopular opinion that Amy Adams is a movie ruiner.
Have you seen Arrival?
Let's not. No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that another time.
I'm sure she's fine. She's probably a very lovely person. I just don't want to see her in a movie. I think that it's. I think just the story elements just didn't work out for it.
Yeah.
Which is, look, this is a pulp movie. Let's not. The only reason that Gone Girl was elevated to awards level movie is because you had David Fincher directing, Ben Affleck, and the source material was maybe even a little better known, at least at the time. So I don't think this one was ever really expected to be anything, just a late year release at a time when people are thirsty for something different.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to make its $20 million in opening weekend and kind of just go from there. It'll be fine.
And people are worried. I mean, there were stories this week saying that obviously the hurricane that's hitting America at the moment is going to affect the box office of this film, and I'm kind of like, I don't. Even if it did stop people on the East Coast going out and seeing a film, I don't think generally across America that would have that much effect on box office. But
it sort of depends. I guess the storm has kind of turned and lessened, as they tend to do once they come, once they walk up to the line, which is really too bad. I wanted to see Florida really get it. But that's not going to happen now. So if, Floridians aren't really going to the... I mean, I don't know. You don't hear a whole lot about, the huge Florida box office.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to make a dent in it, just like big weather events always do.
Yeah.
But that's certainly not something that they can point to and be like, well, that's the reason I gone.
It was a very tenuous kind of like, well, is it to do with maybe the fact that it's not a particularly good movie? I don't know. But it fills a gap in what's in the box office right now. Something else that hits this weekend, which I actually forgot was coming out this week until there was a lot of furore around it. There have been demonstrations outside theatres that have already started showing this. Birth of a Nation, a film that's been talked about for various reasons over the last couple of months.
Very delicate topic, this.
Very
is it
delicate,
not? Yes.
yeah.
I saw Birth of a Nation back at Sundance for its premiere. And the day before, I think the day of that premiere, was an afternoon premiere. Someone said to me, this Nate Parker, somebody look into Nate Parker's past, this could be a problem for him. I looked into it then. Lots of us did. There was not a lot of talk about it because I think we all sort of thought we were maybe the one who were noticing and thinking about this, but nobody did anything or said anything at the time. By that, I mean the movie press who was in Park City. Until 8 months later, and as we all know, Variety and Deadline had those sort of competing rhyming Nate Parker stories with interviews with him, and he's only hurt himself since. He refuses to apologize. I think that's what everybody's waiting for him to do, and he's probably never going to do it because I think in his heart of hearts he believes he didn't do anything wrong. That has been his side of the story since the trial itself, and he's obviously done a lot of growing and a lot of soul searching. He's not 19 years old anymore. Now the question becomes: is this going to be a problem for the movie at the box office / at award season? It's a fluid question. It's a question whose answer has been different at every stage of the way.
Yeah.
At this point, I think the biggest problem with film is that it's just not a very good film.
Right.
People were over the moon about it. They were rapturous about it. At the time, I remember the credits rolling in the Eccles Theater in Park City and people leaping to their feet and screaming and shouting in full throat, warbling with emotion. And I get it, but the film itself is just not that great. It's okay.
I think part of the problem, and as part of the film community, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, but I try to manage it to a certain extent. We do tend to get a little bit overexcited about films that offer something a bit different when it comes out, whether it's a sci-fi movie. There are people that evangelize and act like it's kind of like you're a teenager. It's the first time you've seen a boob. It's like, oh my God, a boob. This is the best bosom ever. And then you kind of get to see a second boob, and you're like, actually, yeah,
it's kind of like the first one.
kind of like a first one.
The sheen of the festival moment is also really, really powerful. We see it happen over and over again. I mean, I remember when I went to my first film festivals, and people were telling me sort of, well, the movie seems really pretty great when you're sitting there for the premiere, and then you see it again in a screening 8 weeks later, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just a movie. It's not like this great phenomenon that I thought it was. That is, there are degrees of that, but I think this one went to 11. This movie listen, the film came out a week after the Oscar nominations.
I was going to say, the timing, I think, was key with that.
It was very key with that. It's not a bad movie. It just, this is going to sound very patronizing, and I hope it's taken with the spirit with which it is intended. I kind of wish that Nate Parker had made a couple of smaller, maybe less ambitious films because this was his directorial debut.
Yeah.
It was his screenwriting debut. And he put a lot of time and energy into it, pulled the money together himself. All the credit is due for that, but there's something about it that feels like a first film. And it was on such a limited budget that the scope of it is like this. It's like you see what's in the camera, and there's nothing around it. There's no additional production value. There's nothing about it. 12 Years a Slave, which I think was a superior movie in a lot of ways, but a big part of the reason was it was, as brutal as it was to watch, it was also gorgeous. It was a really gorgeous film, and had some real emotional beats in it. This one feels just a little bit. It feels a little bit student filmy. I hate to say that, but it just doesn't have a real art to it. It doesn't have a professional feel to it. It feels just a little bit thrown together. They shot it very quickly, and you can sort of tell. The performances are just sort of okay. It's just kind of, it feels like maybe like an elevated Lifetime movie or some original movie, and it really should have been. I mean, this should have been his crowning achievement. Plus, if he makes a couple of smaller films, then we get this past business behind him. Like then we reckon with that on maybe a film that has a chance at maybe a nomination somewhere. Not the movie that you're essentially positioning yourself as. This is my Oscar opus, which is what this movie clearly was intended to be.
So do you think there'll be an audience for it this weekend?
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
And who's that audience going to be?
When they bought that movie for a record, $16-17 million?
Yeah.
Part of that promise was 1,500 theaters, which is not a wide release, but it's not a wide release.
No.
That's like a robust, nationwide
Considering there are movies that
theatrical.
come out on a regular basis that get between 4 and 20 theaters across the US.
That's right. They could have done this as a limited rollout.
Yeah.
I've heard that they've bought, because of demand, they've bought up something more like 2,100 theaters. So there's enough demand out there for the film. Projections right now, 7 to 10 million. I'm thinking more like double that at this point.
Okay.
I think you could probably see high teens, possibly even 20 million for the movie. Listen.
But is that because people want to see it because they want to see the movie or because they want to see what the outrage is about?
I do think that I think that the message of this is an important story that's never been told. The Nat Turner Slave Rebellion is actually it's a fascinating story all by itself that most people don't know anything about and haven't heard, told. And there's very scant information on it because of when it happened and where it happened. And so, there's a curiosity gap there that I think will send people to it. And I think that curiosity gap just sort of rode along with all the other publicity and probably hung around enough to gather enough people to who want to see it. And I think the amount of people who will say, well, I'm not going to participate in that because I don't want to support someone who was accused of rape is probably smaller than the group that came along with their own desire to see the movie because they heard about it on account of that. I'm not trying to say that this helped him, but in the sum and total, I think it at least evens out.
We were talking about 12 Years a Slave, and Dylan in the chat is asking if Steve McQueen is going to direct another movie soon. We actually spoke about that on the show last week. He has got another project lined up, and the cast for that is phenomenal. Includes people like Viola Davis. So, yes, if you want all the information on that, it is in last week's show. Right, let's move on from that. I think it's for Birth of a Nation. I think for me, I wasn't invited to a preview screening, which is fine. I haven't had time to see it anyway. It's not something I will be rushing to the theatre to see. It's something I'm going to wait to come on my HBO Now account in 8 months' time, and I'll catch it then. I am interested to see it, but it's not a rush out and see in the theatre kind of thing.
Yeah, the story itself is very linear, and it's easy to just sort of read the log line and be like, okay, that's the story.
Yeah.
Because that is the story. Do you want to see the details of that filled in? Then that's what you'll be deciding, come March when you can finally see this thing on Netflix.
Talking of Netflix, excellent segue.
Thank you. I meant that. Totally intended.
Jay-Z and Netflix possibly on board to do the Lee Daniels Richard Pryor biopic.
Yeah.
Excellent timing, as also, aside from that being a project that I'm personally very interested in, I love the work of Richard Pryor. Netflix this week signed a deal with theatres to release some of their content in movie theatres, which has kind of pissed a few movie theatre people off.
It's a real interesting dynamic between Netflix and the exhibition community.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because the exhibition community for years has enjoyed this very warm handshake relationship with Hollywood. That is a symbiotic relationship that was forced upon them when the United States government, Trustbusters, made that business into two businesses.
Yeah.
So you've got theaters, and you've got the Hollywood studios that supply their product. They go to Vegas once a year. They love each other. Now you've got Netflix kind of hanging around on the outskirts, going, well, we're a huge studio too. We've got money enough to make great TV shows. We're making movies, including awards movies. So how are we going to show them in theaters? Mostly at this point, last year, to get the movie qualified for awards. That was the principal reason they did it. And they did that through what was called four-walling a theater, which is you buy a certain amount of theaters just outright. I'm going to buy your theater, and you could show a nudie review in there if you wanted to.
Which theater was this?
No, it's not that. That's not what actually
fine.
happened.
No, damn.
But you could show cat videos, whatever. It doesn't matter. And so and then you essentially pay the exhibitor, and then you reap whatever costs that you get back in ticket sales. That's what Amazon has been doing. That's what all these other theaters have been, because the point of that is the 90-day window.
Yeah.
The only thing that's keeping the movie business alive, and I'm sorry, but I'm right about this, and I've always been right about it, and I always will be right about it, is the fact that you can only see movies in the movie theater for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
30 days is acceptable. 90 days, 60 days is like, okay. 90 days is what they really want. And they're not getting it from Amazon and Netflix, who are showing these things, day and date in some cases. So this is an interesting deal in that Netflix has gotten to it. It's a very small theater chain. It's iFlick, I think, or something.
Yeah.
It's New York and LA. And essentially they've agreed, okay, yeah, we'll show your movies here in the same way we show anybody's movies here, and you can put them on Netflix whenever you want. So is it a crack in the dam? Hard to say, because I don't think AMC or Regal or any of these big boys are going to be like, oh, well, these little guys did it, and they're still open, so what the heck. They are going to stand very firm on the notion that you need 90 days of exclusivity in these theaters, or we are not going to show the movie, period. And if you break that, we'll do no further business with you. That's the way it stands. That's the way it's going to be. So this is Netflix trying to maybe court the nerds on the side of the lunch, but the cool kids on the big table are not going to speak to them anytime soon.
Well, I've had a really interesting conversation recently with a friend of mine who runs a production company, and they're making films specifically now that are aimed at small theatrical release and then predominantly looking at a VOD distribution model. And obviously at the moment, what they're being offered by Netflix and what they're being offered by Amazon, when they sell something to Amazon, they get a much better financial deal. Netflix is like, well, we can show it on this platform, and we've got more subscribers. If you then start putting theatrical edition as an offering, if you're a filmmaker, onto the Netflix stream, suddenly, even though you've got financial more up front from Amazon, you've got theatrical, which has a bit more kudos as well if you go with Netflix. So you can sell to Netflix, get the money from that deal, and then get residuals on box office and stuff like that.
Well, and really,
so there's an opportunity for revenue there if you're a filmmaker.
There's a lot of optics involved too. Filmmakers are precious, and they like to see their movies They want to see their name on a marquee, and they want people to go into a movie theater and see their movie, even if it's just one person at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon.
And they can't get the screen space in, say, The Grove, because they're all showing Don't Breathe or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
But no, Amazon has done this too, and I actually reported on this earlier in the year, where they haven't done it yet, but they plan to, in some cases, honor the long window, so that they can put their movie into theaters. Major chains, Manchester by the Sea, for instance, is going to be one of these, because they're going to make a serious awards push for that movie when it comes out, and it won't come to Amazon Prime until 90 days later, which. How do Prime customers feel about that? It's sort of, you're shifting around the balance knobs here and there, and somebody's getting disservice. But I think that you'll actually see. I think Amazon will run ahead of Netflix for the coming future, in terms of being friendly with theater chains and doing what they want them to do.
Yeah. Going back to the Jay-Z and Netflix relationship with Lee Daniels and Richard Pryor biopic, is that something, that's a project that's been around now for a little bit of a while and nothing's actually happened with it?
I feel like I've been hearing about this movie since I came to LA in 2008.
I think around for a long time.
Before that. Yeah. Do they have anybody in mind to play him at this point?
Not that I'm aware, no. And they haven't really said kind of what it's going to focus on, whether it's going to be his sort of early stand-up stuff or whether it's going to be partnerships with Gene Wilder and stuff like that. There's not a huge amount out there.
Yeah, I don't know
Bare
anything.
bones on that one.
At
I'd like
this
to
point,
see it because I love Richard Pryor.
I do too, and rightly so. I mean, the man was a comedic genius. He was also a personal train wreck.
Yeah.
At all times.
It's a great story.
Yeah, it really is, and it would be a very delicate thing because you got to make it funny, but you can't look past the fact that he was so self-destructive that he couldn't even be in his own movies in some cases.
Yeah.
Or when he was in movies, people had to wait for several days on him for just get his head on straight. It's funny you mentioned Gene Wilder. A lot of folks think of Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor as being these great friends who sort of, were hand in hand, when really they were just paired together for the first time for, I don't know if their first movie was Silver Streak, or was it...
It was Silver Streak was their first one, yeah.
They barely knew each other. Gene was sort of bemused by Richard and like, okay, well, he's funny and we seem to get along okay. And on screen, they were just electric together. They were great.
It's kind of like now we're seeing with Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson. I mean, I don't imagine they probably knew each other within entertainment circles, and they were obviously aware of each other's work. But I don't imagine that, Kevin was going around to Dwayne's house to watch the game on a Monday night.
Right, and that's how Gene and Richard were. They were colleagues. They were terrific on screen. They had amazing chemistry, and they knew it. And they took advantage of that over the course of, I think, 4 movies or 5 movies. But outside of that, they didn't really commiserate or hang out or anything like that. Gene was kind of like, okay, I'll work with him again, but he's going to show up this time, right?
Yeah. Staying with platforms and people making these movies, HBO. Did you ever see the documentary about Green Day's American Idiot?
I did not.
Musical. It was a great thing. It was a film I caught at the London Film Festival a few years ago, and it was kind of low down on the bill. It was like it was one of the smaller things they showed, and it was really interesting. And it was about this musical. But now HBO are going to make the musical that Green Day did into a movie. Now,
I see.
This is going to come up twice in the show today. I'm a fan of movie versions of musicals. I enjoy that. I'd really like to see this. It's a great story, and I think it'd be really, really interesting to see who they cast in it.
Do you think there'll ever be a Hamilton movie?
Yes.
You think so?
I think it's inevitable.
What, we've 3 hours or whatever.
Well, we've got the in cinema version of the musical, which has already been announced.
Right.
I think within the next 18 months we're going to see.
I would think
Hamilton,
they would have to get that one
movie.
cracking pretty soon if they're going to jump on the. I mean, it's kind of running out of. The rocket boosters have been fired on that already, and it's like they got to do it. They got to do it now. They got to announce it now.
What I assume, and I have nothing to guarantee this at all, I assume behind the scenes they're trying to get the original Rockstar cast together. Sure. And now, obviously, a lot of those guys are really busy with other projects. So it's a case of, can we afford them? That's going to push up the budget because they've gone from being sort of Broadway players to film stars. And are they available? And there's all these factors now. So they might be deciding how long are we going to stay along that line and try and get the original cast, or just go, let's just cast Diego Boneta in the role. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of like,
I think you have to have Lin-Manuel in the lead.
I would think you would have to, but Hollywood doesn't always listen.
That's true. They
kind of do their own thing.
Things.
Hey, anything with Diego Boneta in, I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm a big fan of Rock of Ages,
why not?
Which we'll get to later. Ocean's 8 this week, a film that's been talked about a lot, and we talked about it on the show. It's an amazing cast. Has got a summer release date. It's going to be June 8th, 2018.
They better get into they better be in pre-production. They better have a script on that.
Well, that's what I thought, because that is super, super tight. And a lot of the people involved in it already have a lot of projects on their dance cards right now, so it's going to be difficult to make. Also, the positioning of that is really interesting. It's going to go up against the Han Solo spin-off, which is May 25th, 2018. It's going to go up against Toy Story 4, Jurassic World 2 that summer. I think it's a really nice bit of counter-programming, because I think a lot of guys are going to enjoy it, but it's going to be very female-focused. But I think because there's going to be a strong female companion in Han Solo spin-off, I think that's going to take some of the money away, because that is going to be a nice bit of...
Are they going the same weekend? Is that the same
No,
May
it's
weekend?
going to be... Han Solo spin-off's going to come out May 25th. Then 2 weeks later, it's going to be Ocean's 8.
I see.
And then the dates around Toy Story 4 and Jurassic Park 2 are going to kind of follow on.
Well, we're finally going to have a good.
We're
going to have a good. It just sounds to me like we're going to finally have a good summer for movies, because this one stunk. It's terrible.
This one was really, really bad. But I think a lot of years now we look at them and go, "Oh, next year's going to be great," and it's like, "Well, that stunk."
Yeah, that's there.
We're getting
comes
more
and
of
goes.
those than we used to.
It's been like a bad 3-year run.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but this is another case where I'm like, I know I'm right because I just look at the numbers and I look at the movies. Even the Oscar race is very, very thin this year, and it's been that way for a few years. It is very cyclical, and it just does feel like we have a couple of years coming up where it's going to be really great. When the Marvel stuff is all coming to a head, I think 2017 and the Star Wars stuff now really rolling up.
Yeah.
2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 is, I think things are going to really return to form. And I'm not talking about box office. I'm just talking about quality. I'm talking about like every weekend feeling like you got to go out to the movie theater.
Yeah. Todd in the chat is saying, don't go up against Star Wars ever, which I would have said was a really valid point until about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Disney were kind of like, Rogue One, we think it's going to do well. It's not going to do Force Awakens numbers. That's not what we're really looking at.
Better not do Force Awakens numbers. No. I mean, then they would have undersold Force Awakens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's slightly changed, and I think like we've seen with some of the Marvel films, some of the spin-off or tier 2 movies, which have been Marvel and part of the bigger Marvel universe and have had a lot of stuff behind them to market them and push them, just have been that kind of, they've been the next level down. So I think the Han Solo movie, which I think will do very well.
These are still $100 million movies. They absolutely are. They're opening to $100 million.
Yeah, but they're opening, but I don't think the finish is going to be...
Yeah, they're not going to be $1 billion. No. Worldwide.
700, 800,000?
Which is fine for those movies.
Which is very good for those.
That's great.
Even after you take off the marketing costs, which I know Jeff is very keen to talk about. I think they're going to do fine. So I think there's going to be enough money to go around there. But I think as positioning, that's a really smart move. Sandra Bullock turns out now is going to be the sister of Danny Ocean.
Okay.
Which
I'm into it.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of open to that. I would have liked it if she was a spurned lover of Danny Ocean.
Yeah.
Because I think rather than sister,
a little bit more friction there.
It's kind of like Spider Girl.
I am just glad that
Spider-Man.
I'm just glad that finally, after all these years, the female heist high wire act thieves of the world are finally being represented on screen. That's all I'm saying. It's been a long time.
Highly neglected area of Hollywood. Other female casting this week: Emily Mortimer joins the Mary Poppins Returns movie as Jane Banks. Now, I hate Mary Poppins.
Why do you?
Is
that why you moved
movie? Yes. Every single day in London, I was reminded of that goddamn movie. No,
just when people talk, I'm reminded of that movie.
I tried to watch it several times, and I just get about an hour into it, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hate this movie. I don't know what it is, and I know there's a lot of love for that.
There wasn't a lot of love for it when it came out. I mean, those films were a little bit dated at the time.
Yeah.
That and Sound of Music were not beloved when they came out. People were like, "What is this? This is campy and weird. We're onto something else." But with time, in a bit of a patina, we've learned to love them.
Yeah.
Yes.
The movie though, Mary Poppins Returns, I'm actually more interested in.
Maybe. I mean, here's a larger point, and I've got Jeff writing about this, so I don't want to spoil it too much. But Disney is absolutely burning through its IP right now. They are torching everything. They've gone in the closet, ripped everything out, thrown it in a pile, and setting it on fire. I'm telling you, what are they going to do in 5 years? What is Disney's slate going to be in 5 years? They finally pulled out Mulan and said, we're doing that for sure.
2018, that's going to be.
So that's basically...
Did Mulan need a live-action remake?
It does when these movies are making $800 to $900 million worldwide.
But when are they going to stop? Is it going to be Sword and the Stone, Fox and the Hound?
That's what I'm saying. Like in 3 or 4 years, what are they going to announce? There's nothing left.
Kevin Hart is the Fox. Dwayne Johnson is the... Oh, shit. I like that idea.
I actually kind of like that,
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So
a little hard to Big Johnson.
2019. Yeah.
Disney is, I mean, God love them. They're making money hand over fist, but it feels like they know that the end of the world is coming, and they're like getting out everything as fast as they can so they can make up enough money to weather some sort of global warming event or something. I don't know.
If I was Disney, I would just pick 10, make it a universe, and do 10 of them. Just pick 10 from the huge catalogue, line them up like they've done with Marvel, and go, this is what we're doing.
Well, I think
rather than plucking them out of their pockets like, oh shit, I found Hercules.
Yeah, right. And but along comes Beauty and the Beast. That's going to make an enormous amount of money. We've already gotten Maleficent and Cinderella. They're going to be getting sequels.
Yeah.
I think there's been rumors of an Aladdin movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there has been talk about that.
And now Mulan is real.
Obviously, Lion King was saying.
Yes, Lion King just came. Yes, just a week ago.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they're about to. They are going to have to be. We're going to start seeing some Herbie movies coming back, which I love, by the way.
Well, it'll give Lindsay Lohan something to do.
I would love to see a reboot of the Herbie franchise, beloved Herbie franchise. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, everyone's favorite.
Was that Disney?
I mean, even Pete's Dragon, which was a terrible movie to begin with, and then a terrible remake. But that's another one that remake that they have. It's off the board now.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that is a fire sale on remakes at Disney.
Well, sequel Enchanted 2. It's another Disney property. Amy Adams is back, which I know you are delighted about.
Oh boy,
Josh Dickey.
Great.
She's back as the princess. The film that resurrected Patrick Dempsey's career on the big screen. And then he managed to completely bludgeon that back to death with a range of really quite awful films. It's going to be directed by Adam Shankman, who, on my thing about musicals earlier, gave us Hairspray, gave us Rock of Ages. 2 flops, but films that I love and enjoy. I do love a movie musical, not afraid to admit that. As a heterosexual man, do enjoy a musical. I'm actually quite interested in this because one thing, I did enjoy the first Enchanted movie. I thought it was very sweet. It was very different. It was very entertaining. Not sure we need the sequel, but I'd like to see what he does with it.
Well, Amy Adams, the teacher's pet, I know
you're going to fight over the junket for that one
form.
with Jeff.
I think she's fine. I am not going to see Enchanted 2. Sorry.
No?
Enchanted was cute. Frankly, I like that play for them because Enchanted was them sort of, playing around with their own identity, right? And doing something fresh with it. That was kind of neat. I just don't care about a sequel of that.
See, for me, I think
just watch the original one again.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if they wanted to do something new with it, I think that would have matched itself really, really well. And Disney do these very well. Make it a Broadway musical. Get Enchanted, turn it into a Broadway musical. That, to me, would have been a better reincarnation or a better development of this. And if you wanted Adam Shankman to do it, he's got musical experience. He could have done that really, really nicely on the stage. There's a lot of great stuff.
If you look at the numbers on like the Lion King musical, what that thing has, the money that thing has made,
yeah,
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it outruns box office in at least on some metrics. Like, that is a huge moneymaker for them.
There are
very consistent.
That's been in London for like well over a decade now, and it's still doing phenomenally well. And Aladdin is also in London right now, and that's doing phenomenally well. And it's kind of pissing off other people in theatre who are kind of like, actually, we've got a great cast, we've got a great original piece. We go, yeah, Lion King, that's tickets. And they're like, but we got this amazing, Lion King, give me a ticket to the Lion King, seen the movie. But there's Lion King. So I think that would have been a better way to advance Enchanted, and Disney own all these theatres around the world and could have made a huge amount of money on that. But, it's a sequel, and we haven't done a release date, so it's not going to be 2018. Blade Runner got a title this week. Couple of movies got titles this week. Blade Runner 2 is now officially called Blade Runner 2049. So I don't know who the first person is who was going to make this joke, so I'm going to take that and go, will it matter if I go and see Blade Runner 2049 if I haven't seen the other 2048 Blade Runners?
Thank you.
Did it? So nobody else has to make that joke because it's a shit joke. But I made it.
Do I need to read the Blade Runner hot takes in order to understand Blade Runner 2049? Or can I just go in? Can I just go in cold?
Can I ask that also, just to do it, 10 things you didn't know about Blade Runner? Can I just ask that Mashable do that article now before somebody else does it?
I thought everyone knew everything about Blade Runner.
Here's what the cast of Blade Runner look like now. I hate those articles. They anger me.
This is going to be like half a dozen tombstones.
Yeah. Here lies the career of Rutger Hauer.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to admit something here, and I could get the pitchforks and torches out for this. So get ready. They might be at the door any minute. I have never been able to get through the original Blade Runner. I have tried 4 times, maybe 5 times. I usually make it about 15 to 20 minutes in, and I find myself standing up washing dishes, and then I'm in the other room doing something else. I just don't get it.
Do you know what?
Maybe I need to just strap myself to the couch or something, but I don't see what the big deal is. Sorry.
No, I exactly know where you're coming from, and I've said this a number of times on the show previously. Blade Runner is a film, everybody, before I'd seen it, was like, oh my God, Blade Runner is like the most amazing sci-fi film ever. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. I thought it was shit the first time I watched it.
Wow.
I was like, what the hell was that?
Taking
That was
another
dull.
level there.
I just did not like it. I was like, okay, maybe I'm missing something. So I watched it again. I was like, okay, it's better. And I've watched it a number of times over the years, and now I've found, whether it's Stockholm Syndrome, I don't know, but I have found a love for Blade Runner, but it is one of those films that can be quite difficult to watch. It just, for many reasons, and I did not feel the love for Blade Runner, and I'm certainly not the biggest fan of the film, but now I'll more than happily go, I fancy watching Blade Runner tonight, and I'll stick it on.
I think I'll have to do it if I want to see this new one and make any sense of it. I mean, at some point I'll have no choice.
Is it like when you went to see the original Total Recall and then the remake Total Recall?
Oh, God, I hope it's better than that.
That was horrendous. Oh, I see what you've done. You've just pissed all over my memories of Total Recall. Well done. Thanks for that, Hollywood.
Say nothing of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, we get.
Can I just say one thing in hindsight about Ghostbusters, which is not a bad movie by any means.
Which comes out on Blu-ray and DVD on Monday, by the way.
Yeah. I think the biggest mistake that they made had nothing to do with the casting. Nobody cares about the gender of the cast. That's not the problem. The fact that they did not connect it to the original story, that it was not a flow-through of, here's what happened back in the 80s, now we're carrying it forward, that was just a huge miscalculation.
Agreed.
That is the reason that movie did not perform, because people were like, well, if it's not connected to the original, I don't really care that much, or, or they saw it and were like, it's not that, again, not the cast, not the politics of it all, not the noise around it, just the fact that they didn't connect it to the original, which I know the alt-right guys and mouth breathers used as their shield, but against, quote-unquote, subconscious sexism or whatever, but I don't buy that. I actually think that they really were like, well, screw you. If you're not
Do you know what my
connect
favourite bit of abuse that was completely unjustified about the Ghostbusters remake was? I saw someone online going, can't believe they've just put a black Ghostbuster in there. And I'm like, there was a black Ghostbuster in the first film,
That's pretty
right?
great.
And they were like, oh shit, yeah.
That's pretty great.
Forgot about that. Great argument, bro.
Well done.
Nice work. Gears of War movie in development at Universal. This current trend for video games becoming big budget movies continues. And I know of at least 2 other studios that have at least 2 other properties that they are looking to turn into movies at the moment right now, various budget levels.
That is a precarious
Gears of War,
wire.
does it have the love?
I think it's a pretty big game. But
Yeah.
the problem is that these games tend
But
to peak
a big game does
out.
not a movie make.
Well, also, like, World of Warcraft peaks out huge. It's huge in, 2006,
Yeah.
2007?
Yeah.
So they're like, shoot, we got to get a movie going on this. By the time they finally develop and get it on the screen, it's 6-8 years later. Now World of Warcraft is played by a third of as many people as were playing it at the time.
Yeah.
It's just a weird cycle to follow. You can't make a movie fast enough to hit the peaks of these. I mean, what about Overwatch? Overwatch just came out, in May?
Yeah.
And is enormous already. In like the esports players are starting to catch on to it, and suddenly it's the thing that everyone's playing. Okay, well, how fast can you make an Overwatch movie? Because if you really want that to be a hit, that should be coming out next summer.
Are we going to get to that point that we did a couple of years ago with things things like books? I mean, books where people are making the movie and writing the book at the same time.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a good question.
So it's kind of like, it's almost like a reverse adaptation. It's like when we grew up, it was like, here's the Star Wars book, an adaptation from the movie, and it's like we're almost going back to that now, where it's
Somebody
like,
just
let's
took
put a
it.
game and create a huge marketable thing.
Right.
Well, I guess how that's Transformers started.
Somebody had an author the shooting script and said, make this into a movie. That's how that was done in the old days.
Yeah.
You mean, so you're asking whether video games and movies could sort of come up together?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess. The problem with that is that you don't know what's going to really hit. I mean, if you think about the amount of energy that was put behind Titanfall
Yeah.
or Destiny,
Yeah.
which before they launched, you could look at that and be like, this is going to be the next big thing. This should be a movie. Let's get this going, Those games didn't really take off.
Did anybody say that about Angry Birds? I mean, that came out, it's 5 years after Angry Birds was massive?
Yeah.
I'd go into Ralph's and I'd see the cartoon Angry Birds DVDs, like the $1. at the checkout.
That movie was as good as an Angry Birds movie. This is what I say could possibly be. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I'm still amazing that they did not use that quote from Mashable on the poster. It's as good as it could be.
It's as good as it could possibly be.
Okay, let's move on. Han Solo spin-off. 3 female possible candidates for the companion. I use that role, the female lead. Obviously, Han Solo, it's a Han Solo film, so he's going to take top billing. Tessa Thompson.
I love her.
Yeah, great. Selma, Creed, really, really good.
She's great.
Zoe Kravitz, dope, Fantastic Beasts.
Love her too.
Really good. Outsider, Naomi Scott, who was in The Martian and is in next summer's Power Rangers movie.
Wouldn't know her if she walked in the door.
No. But I've looked at their pictures. That sounded creepy. But I looked at them online.
I've looked at their pictures.
They're all very attractive ladies. I think they would all fit very well. Looking at who would look good opposite Han Solo, they would all really, really nicely work.
Yeah, and clearly
Visually, as a pairing.
They're playing, I don't know her name, but his wife from the comics, I guess.
Yeah.
Or at one point they were married somewhere, and then were estranged, and now she's back, and now he's in trouble. Yeah.
It's basically like many
To the moon,
love
Han,
stories.
to the moon. Yeah, sure, why not? I don't know. I mean, can I just, again, I hate to derail this into a bigger point, but
Amy Adams is also up front. She's not. Seriously,
Amy
I mean,
Adams.
I think your hate for Amy Adams has gone so far around. I think you actually are disguising a love.
Is she really raising her hand again? Is she really volunteering again to go solve this problem at the chalkboard? I don't like this trend of prequelizing. I don't care about what happened before. I don't need you to connect and go. I don't want to see the Kessel Run. I don't. I like my version of the Kessel Run. That's been in my head since I was 4 years old in 1977.
That doesn't make a theme park ride, though. How are you going to make a theme park ride?
I just
it's
think
in your
that,
head.
yeah, I
Can't market that.
I think that audiences and the studios are very complicit in this. They want those gaps filled in. They're going to gobble it up and eat it up.
Yeah.
There's no mystery anymore. There's no that was one of the reasons that Star Wars worked, the original Star Wars, was because they treated it as if it was you're just dropping in on the middle of the sequelized movie.
Yeah.
There's no, they talk about stuff and you're like, I don't know what this even is. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know that. You're still getting the central story. The spirit of it was that there was mystery around all these different things, and there's just no mystery anymore. We're filling everything in.
Yeah.
You're coloring in the entire book. There's nothing left to the imagination. I like Alden Ehrenreich. I think he's great. I like Han Solo. I relate to him on many levels. Do I want to see a Han Solo movie? No, I really don't.
Well, it's coming, Josh.
I really, really don't want to see it. I actually have said this before, and I'll say it now again. I'm going to see Rogue One because I'm kind of interested in where that goes. Then I might tap out.
Okay.
On Star Wars. I just could be tapped out. That's good. I'm done.
We got 5 minutes left on the show, so a few things to run through. Very quickly, Ben Affleck's Live by Night getting an awards season-friendly release date, January 13. It's a movie I'm genuinely quite excited about. I like the cast. I like his style. I like the idea that it's another Dennis Lehane novel adaptation.
I have lost track of Ben. I think Ben Affleck has about 11 movies right now, and they're all coming out around the end of the year, and they're not. I don't know, man.
That probably explains why he hasn't wanted to go out for a beer.
Is this the one? Is Live by Night the one where he's a gangster in the 30s or whatever?
Yeah.
So the trailer just came out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's great. I don't know. Ben Affleck is great. He's a terrific filmmaker. He's doing so many things that I can't keep track of it.
Yeah. Wolverine 3, we were talking about films getting titles. That got a title this week. It's going to be called Logan.
Yeah, that's
got a poster.
I think that's kind of a neat nod to fans.
Yeah.
Because if you don't stick the word Wolverine on there,
I think
it's harder to
sticking
sell
Wolverine on a Wolverine movie has kind of been a bad thing for the last 2 or 3 movies.
Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one, winds up being retitled Logan: Wolverine's Last Stand or something with it.
Yeah.
Like just calling it Logan is cool.
Just
but
so
you
people...
have to be you've got I think there's some executive's going to get nervous about that somewhere along the way, and they're going to flip it. Mark my words.
Jackman says it's going to have a very different tone. So I'm going for slapstick comedy.
I hope so. I would love to see
Wolverine brings the lols.
I'd love to see how about a madcap wacky race?
Why I oughta. We talk about all the Harry Potter films are coming back into cinemas and IMAX in theaters across the US and around the world, October 13th. I don't need to see the other Harry Potter movies. It's quite funny for me because Warner have been so keen to express that Fantastic Beasts is in the Harry Potter universe, but it's not a Harry Potter sequel or tie-on. It's something very different, and yet still decide to release all the Harry Potter movies back in theaters. So everybody's, oh, it's Harry Potter. It's not Harry Potter. Here are the Harry Potter films again.
The original Harry Potter movie was one of the very few movies that I've actually walked out on halfway through.
It's not a great film.
It's very poor. It was very janky. It didn't look good. And I had just read the book, and it was like beat for beat the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't need to sit here any further. I'm hungry. Let's get out of here. It was my wife and I at the time. We both had just read the book. We liked the book, and then we walked out of the movie because it was boring. I don't care. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get this one. And Fantastic Beasts looks very dead behind the eyes to me.
You see, I thought that, but I saw the last trailer a couple of weeks ago, and I'm actually now quite intrigued by it. So... But I like the Davids. I like Eddie. It's going to be quite fun, I think. But
I will check it out in deference to Eddie Redmayne, who I very much like. Even bad Eddie Redmayne is pretty great.
Respective of what we think, it's gonna go bananas at the box office.
Of course.
Back to Affleck. Batman got revealed as the Batman this week.
Oh, is that right?
That's the title.
I missed that. So
they're calling it the Batman.
Okay.
I spoke to J.K. Simmons about this week. I did a piece for Forbes with him about a new film, The Late Bloomer, that he's got coming out this week in theaters. It's a small comedy directed by Kevin
Did you
Pollak.
see his giant guns when you were hanging out?
I did not know. I didn't ask him to take his shirt off.
That's
I thought that might have been a bit awkward.
Maybe he would have done it without asking.
Hey, I went in pantless just to put the guy at ease, which is why it was a short interview. And he was saying that everybody wants to know so much about his Commissioner Gordon role in The Batman and in Justice League that he's kind of like, dude, don't spoil every movie. You don't need to know every detail. We've talked about this on the show before, but he was like, I don't get why everybody has to know everything these days. Go and see a movie and don't know everything, and then you might enjoy it a bit more. I think he's got a valid point.
We are kind of inside the bubble on that. I mean, we kind of have to know everything that everybody else knows.
Yeah.
I think that your average human being out there...
And if we don't do it, someone else will do it.
Proof of this is when you go to a movie where you've seen the trailer 1,000 times, and there's a humor beat, and like the audience erupts in laughter, and you're like, haven't we seen this 1,000 times? And then you realize, oh, these people have not seen this trailer 1,000 times. They've not written 4 stories about it. They've not been to the junket. So it is easy for us to start to think that everything is getting spoiled, but I think that your average human being
doesn't connect to it the same way.
Usually has a pretty fresh experience at the movie theater.
Finally today, I did an interview with the Soska sisters this week because their season 2 of Hellevator is on GSN. Have you seen that game show?
I don't even recognize those as English words.
Okay.
Sorry.
Soska sisters, great horror directors. They did a brilliant film called American Mary a few years ago. They've done a number of other projects as well. They've got this game show on GSN. It's pretty good. It's a game show with horror. They are doing a remake of David Cronenberg's Rabid.
Okay.
Spoke to them about that. Very interesting. They also want to do, and I love this idea, they want to do, they're big Cronenberg fans and they're Canadian, they want to do a remake of Dead Ringers. But the lead protagonists would be female proctologists, and they want the Olsen twins to play. So it would be directed by twins. The Olsen twins are these crazy bum doctors.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's never going to happen.
I don't think the Olsen twins would go for it.
Never going to happen.
But I would totally watch that. And there's also a movie they're about to announce very soon, which I know what it is. I can't tell anyone about it. That they're working on at the moment, which is going to be really super cool. And it's going to put them on the studio map, I think. So that is very exciting. That's going to be announced in the next few weeks. So I think that's it. It's the time.
We actually got through that whole list? I don't believe it.
We got through the whole list.
We were talking fast.
Yeah. We didn't get through all the projects that Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart have signed up for this week. They actually called me and offered to do my grocery shopping this week because apparently I hadn't done that. So they're doing that together this week.
That's great.
Which is nice because they're bros.
Your grocery list requires a little heart and a big Johnson.
It does. That's still my favorite tagline of the year. Other things before we go, if you haven't seen the trailer for Get Out, Jordan Peele's horror movie. Do check that out online.
Yeah, that looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, and also the Mark Wahlberg Boston Marathon bombing movie is one of the most affecting trailers I've seen recently, so do make sure that you go and see that one.
Get it? Why did he and Berg make those movies back to back? It feels like the same movie.
I'm not quite sure, but it looks really, really good in the trailer. So if you're looking for trailers to watch this weekend, then I suggest checking both of those out. Josh Dickey from Mashable, thank you very much for joining us on the show this week.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to come all the way out here to
Where
Sherman
can
Oaks
people find you on Twitter?
I'm at JLD Light. JLD are my initials.
Yeah, and light
is just a funny way of spelling light. Yeah, JLD-LITE.
It's a great story.
Thank you very much.
I always love
tell
that
it
story.
anytime.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be back in the co-host seat next week. Jeff is going to be in this week, Jeff's seat. This seat, say it, seat. And until then, have a great week. Watch loads of movies and contact us online. Like, share, and do everything on iTunes and YouTube and tell everybody about the show, because without an audience, it's kind of pointless. Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.